fake-ass crown prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, claims that the first thing that he would do if he takes power in Iran would be normalizing relationships with the genocidal state of Israel and cutting off the Palestinian resistance.
But let me be clear about how a free Iran will act towards its neighbors and the world after the fall of this regime. In security and foreign policy, Iran's nuclear military program will end. Support for terrorist groups will cease immediately. In diplomacy, relations with the United States will be normalized, and our friendship with America and her people will be restored. The state of Israel will be recognized immediately. We will pursue the expansion of the Abraham Accords into the Cyrus Accords, bringing together a free Iran, Israel, and the Arab world.
Now do you guys see what this Iranian revolution is really about? Now do you guys see why Zionists in the West are cheering for the downfall of Iran? Zionists are waging war and destabilizing any country in the Middle East who doesn't support their Zionist agenda and their genocide. And Iran has been the #1 supporter of Palestinian resistance in the region. The entire point of this Iranian color revolution is to install a monarchy that is loyal to the state of Israel. There were so many Israeli flags being flown in support of the Iranian color revolution that many members of the Iranian diaspora had to ask people to stop bringing the Israeli flags because it made them look bad. Despite the fact that this is such an obvious color revolution attempt by Zionists and their attempt to strip Iran of all their sovereignty, the entirety of the liberal progressive left in the United States is cheering it on, proving that they are youthful idiots for the Zionist regime, the same way that they cheered on the head-chopping terrorists in Syria in order to get rid of Assad. And the first thing that the former Al-Qaeda and ISIS members did was to try to normalize relations with the state of Israel, the same way that liberals supported the Venezuelan opposition, despite the fact that Maria Corina Machado praised Benjamin Netanyahu and his genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza. And the first thing she said she would do is to move the Venezuelan embassy to Jerusalem-controlled Israel. You guys see what's going on here? The Zionist-controlled West is bankrolling extremist traitors in order to sell out their people to support the state of Israel. This is why every single American must speak out loudly against CIA color revolution attempts that our government supports.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family. Welcome to another edition of Nick at Prime Time. You guys know I'm always in the lab cooking. Always in the lab cooking with hotspots. We are back from YouTube after being banned. We had a banger show this Saturday. You guys know I always learn a lot from our sister Jody Brar. But you guys know I had to call the homie up tonight. I had to call my homie Rome. You guys know Rome is doing amazing work with his mutual aid. He's an activist on the ground, my RBN brother, amazing educator. It's great that we bring back the Nick and Rome show. What's poppin', brother? What's good, homie?
What's going on with you, man? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's poppin'?
Shit, man. Chilling. I was just taking this all in. There's a lot going on, but it's good to be back on the show with you, man. We definitely got to do something again for sure.
Yeah, it's always great to talk to Rome. This is where it all started back in the day with me and Rome on my old Twitch page, Black Rose Brigade back in the day. I had to get your take on the Iranian protest. I was just on Jimmy Dore. I think, man, I was going pretty hard at Dr. Cornel West and all the progressive left for supporting this bullshit. Do you guys know what the fuck this whole protest was about? And to me, it's so disqualifying to see anyone stand with Iran. This was a Persian Zionist revolution in Iran that was snuffed the fuck out. Like, that's why they've been begging the United States to bomb Iran, Rome, because they had this plan to have Mossad agents connect to Starlink. And then they connected to Starlink. Putin was like, hey, I know how to shut that shit down, right? Hey, Iran, I got your back. And Putin and Russia sends them the technology that they need to jam Starlink. And then they track these Mossad motherfuckers down. And that's why the West is melting down. Like, oh, we gotta avenge our Mossad assets in Iran. So if you guys don't know what it's really about, this is what it's about. You guys see this is the Iran monarchy flag and Israel. This is the unified coalition. And you have the fake ass crown prince, the fake shot calling for a normalized relation with Israel. So before we continue, we do got a lot to discuss, Ron. We have Venezuela analysis who's scheduled to join us later. We'll talk with Venezuela with them a little bit later. What are your takes on everything that's been going on for the last few days?
Man, when I seen this, I woke up to this news. I woke up probably like 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get ready for a show. I'm like, man, what the hell are they talking about? You stand for Iran. I'm like, hold on, let me go back. Ain't this the same page that said fuck Gaza? Yep. And hold on, this can't be right? So I'm like, okay, well, obviously this is a psyop, and you can just tell by the same people that is backing it. Like, I'm not falling for this. I'm glad a lot of people did not fall for this, and it did shine a light on a lot of people who are liars. You know what I'm saying? They lied, acting like they are on the left, acting like they want solidarity with us. But in all reality, these people are paid by the State Department just like all these other propagandists, And
yep.
It was one CIA agent on here talking about, oh, well, the left is so lame if we do something like this. Like, what the fuck you talking about the left? Like this, it reminded me of that meme when it said back in the days how, they used to try to give Fidel Castro a poison pen or a poison cigar, and now they just type on Twitter like, oh, well, the left is blah, blah. Man, fuck out of here. It's funny.
The same people who fall for it, they felt the people who not saying anything about what happened in Syria.
Yeah.
Like, there was people who made their whole social media profile presence about freeing Syria. I know Zoran Mamdani's wife, she used to tweet about it all the time. Like, I'm not trying to talk about homie's wife, but hey, it is what it is. These people it was rabid. Like, oh, we gotta get rid of Assad. And if you take any geopolitical considerations in mind and you bring up how Assad was supportive of the Palestinian regime, the Palestinian resistance, they're like, oh, you just Assadist puppet, this is campus ideology. For some reason, the left is not allowed to strategize on the geopolitical world stage. That's why I love what Jody said. I don't know if you saw my show with Saturday with Jody. Well, a lot of democratic socialists and a lot of these Western chauvinists who pretend to be socialists, what they don't understand is when our ruling class loses overseas because we understand that capitalism is an extension of imperialism, that means they become weaker. Thus, it decreases their ability to wage class war at us at home. Every loss they take foreign policy wise, every time the capitalist agenda is stifled, it helped revolutionary socialist movements. Yeah. That's why it's wild to see people who cheer for the head choppers of Syria. They cheered for the Shah fake Persian Zionist revolution. They are active agents of the greater Israel project, whether they know it or not.
Yeah, and I believe a lot of these people know, like, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I understand that a lot of people are stupid in America, but a lot of these people know what they are doing. It don't take a smart person to be evil, it really don't. So you know what you are doing, you know who you are backing. The same people who are saying that they stand with Iran are the same people who still with Israel. And if you don't see through that, then you just don't want to. There is no, oh, well, I didn't know, because I know I tried to. I meant to inbox Rokana because I want to get him on the show because he said he didn't know about the bills that they had passed. He didn't know about the funding for ICE. He didn't know about the funding for Israel and the bills that they had passed to give Trump basically immunity on whatever the foreign policy decisions that he wanted. And he said, "Oh, they snuck them in there last minute." You don't read your bills? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, this is it is ridiculous, man. And if anybody falling for it, I don't believe you if you say you're falling for it. I believe that you are, trying to play damsel in distress while we are living in the middle of the empire. Nobody's a damsel in distress in the middle of the empire. The best thing that you can do is try to bring this motherfucker down.
Yeah, I say it all the time. I think a lot of people don't understand because I go so hard at the Dr. Cornel West professional managerial class. I go so hard at the TYT left, the Anna Kasparian left, who condemns Hamas. while pretending to support. Like, I go hard at those people, but I'm actually very forgiving for people who are the ordinary people who are misled. You know what I mean? And I know some people may miss that. I know that may fall between the cracks because you guys see me going super hard on the professional managerial club. But I'm honestly, like, if you're a worker and you saw some CNN propaganda about Iran and you believed it for some reason, you're like, man, I guess they've been oppressed in Iran. Women have no rights in Iran. I gotta support the Zionists in Iran. Like, if you fall for some stupid shit and you fall for some stupid shit because you got 3 kids, like Romeo kids, like you got 3 kids, you fucking spend all your time working. Then you work at a factory, you tired as fuck when you get home from work. Then you got your kids fucking with you. Then you got to take care of your house. Like, I get it, bro. You guys got you got obligations that I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? So I'm actually forgiving of those people. You know what I mean? I'm not. You guys know I didn't go after people for supporting Zoran Mamdani, for example. I made my own argument. But Rome, do you see me like attack any individual? Like, yes, I wasn't. Yeah, they were pissed at me, but I wasn't going to people like, man, you shouldn't support Zoran. Fuck Zoran. I will make my argument and I will try to educate my people. But I understand the working class may make mistakes. But what I am way less tolerant of is people who should know better. The people who have doctorate degrees, you have all these titles, recognitions. You have a long history of studying politics. Like, you got to realize that we're still new guns, new kids on the block compared to the majority port TYT. Get them. They've been in the game for 20 years. Yeah. Like, you realize Jake and Anna and them, they've been in the game for 20 years. And you telling me you condemn Hamas. You telling me you don't know international law. You telling me you don't know what the Shah is. After you've been a political commentator for years, I also don't hold back on people who raise their hand and volunteer to be a leader. Because do I have to correct Rome on Iran and Syria? Am I cringing because Rome is supporting the Shah? Like, I don't have to tell Rome to get these issues correct. You understand? Because Rome is actually a leader in the community. I know he probably won't admit it, but he's a thought leader. Like, you see how we don't have to hold the hand of Rome. You don't have to hold my hand. You don't have to worry about me getting Venezuela wrong, for example. You don't have to worry about me getting Cuba wrong. So why do these people in the professional managerial class who raise their hand and say, hey, I want to be a member of Congress. I want to be a mayor of this city. And we're supposed to take it easy on them? And we're supposed to be okay with them getting very important issues wrong over and over and over again? I'm sorry. We should have better standards for that as an intellectual working class movement. Do you agree, Ron?
Oh yeah. And I remember all of these people having a fit because people saying, "Oh, well, they support Hamas," and I don't really see a problem with supporting Hamas because, you know, like I said, I don't look down on Hamas the same reasons why I don't look down on the Black Panthers or any type of resistance movement that's fighting the empire. Like, we have to understand, like, they are fighting trillions of dollars, like, and they have little or nothing to make do with, and to get the results that they have gotten. Yes, a lot of people have died, but to condemn one of the only groups out there, that's the reason why Palestinians are still kicking to this day. You can't catch me doing that. Seeing that they are a product of their environment. How can you blame Hamas for trying to fight back against the empires? And then, people try to say that they're anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic. It isn't their fault that the people who are in their lands are Jewish. It isn't their fault. It doesn't matter who it is. You know what I'm saying? That's like if Black people went and colonized Palestine and then we just call them racist. We just say, oh, y'all don't like Black people. Y'all want Black people. Like, no, y'all run our government. Y'all shut off our water. Like, what are you talking about, racist? And if, we can't get away with something like that, I'm definitely not letting Jewish people get away with anything like that.
You want to know what drives me crazy about the intellectually lazy leftists like Ro Zoran Mamdani, and Anna Kasperi, and all these people who condemn Hamas? Like, if you just ask them a few questions, it really peels back their white supremacy and how they're just repeating empire talking points. Because it's bring up like, hey, what is your criticism of Hamas specifically? compared to other Palestinian resistance groups. Like, what Palestinian group do you support? Do you support the Popular Front?
No.
Do you support the Fatah resistance movement? The Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement? Like, what you guys realize there's multiple Palestinian groups? And I'm failing to remember a few of them on the top of my head. Those are a few of them I know. There's the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine. There are a few Islamic groups. I don't know if I'm saying it right. There's the Fatah, they're the armed group that's associated with the Palestinian Authority. So you notice that the people who condemn Hamas, Rome, they never bring up who they like among the Palestinian resistance. It's not like, oh man, I don't like Hamas because they are Islamic, but I support the Popular Front because they're more Marxist, they're more revolutionary. They never bring up the alternative. They just want Palestinians to shut up and die.
So even people who advocate for third parties or talk shit about other third parties be like, I don't like third party, I'm going with PX.
Yeah.
You know, at least they have some solutions. Like, who do you want to protect other Palestinians if it aren't Palestinians?
So I pull up the list because I couldn't remember all of them. This is one I was trying to mention. Obviously, you have Hamas. Sorry for using AI. I just want to pull something quick. This is the one most people on the left like, the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine. They're more revolutionary, more Marxist in their approach. Mm-hmm. The thing that annoys me about U.S. leftists, and this is what the Western professional managerial class left, they said, well, we don't like Hamas because Hamas is an Islamic movement. We believe that Palestine should be led without any theocracy or any Islamic elements.
But they say that the Muslims don't deserve no power. When that's what they mean. The Muslims do not deserve any power, because every time we talk about this and we talk about, they always come up with these bullshit names, bro. But we have to remember that Hamas is democratically elected. So what?
Exactly, bro. Exactly. You read my mind there, because they demand that Palestinians organize in a secular manner. Yeah, you guys realize that's the criticism you hear from people like Zoran, Anna Kasparian, who condemns Hamas. I gotta bring this up because people think that Anna Kasparian is good now because she's allowed to debate Zionists, and it drives me crazy, man. I'm like, do you guys know who you're talking about? Like, she condemns the Palestinian resistance, and the argument they made is the Palestinian movement should be secular. And you guys see how that's inherently an imperialist mindset? Who are you as an American to tell Palestinians how they should organize their resistance? And as you see here, they got options. They got options. Like, if you don't want to organize on Hamas, they got a different resistance group in Palestine and for them to choose from. So why do you as an American, and this is what the Western left does all the time that drives me fucking crazy, and I'm fucking secular. Like, I'm not even religious. You're not religious either, Rome. But who the fuck are we to tell Palestinians that they shouldn't organize based on their religion or choose not to? That's not our call. And you guys see why Western leftists are imperialist minded? The fact that you even believe you should condemn Hamas because there is an Islamic resistance movement, despite the fact that their charter specifically said, hey man, we got nothing against Jewish people. It's about our self-determination and our rights. So that's the nonsense you will get from the Western left. I'm gonna show you guys this, because this is I showed on my hotspot video how they had to beg people in Iran and the fake Iranian diaspora to not wave Israeli flags, and they had to stop. They had to take down posts like these. Look at this. An Israeli flag proudly being waved in Iran. No, you don't fucking say. These are the traitors. These are the people who want to strip Iran of their sovereignty, who want to directly betray the Palestinian resistance. Like, can you think how much of a psychopath you have to be, Rome, that you want to betray and cut off the Palestinian revolution, Palestinian resistance, because you have some derangement syndrome about how the Iranian government is ran. Their women don't have the right to create an OnlyFans account. Like, this is what the resistance is. It was so bad that you had Iranian USAID paid propagandists. They came out in And it was begging people like, hey, man, if you want to support our protest, can you please stop bringing the Israeli flag? That's what they said publicly.
This is why I don't listen to people when they say, listen to the Venezuelans, listen to, these people, listen to black women. Like, who? Okay, listen to which group? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
When they say listen to black women, okay, I listen to black women. I listen to black women that are communists, that are socialists. Oh, you didn't mean those black women? Like, okay, well, listen to the Palestinians. Well, they said vote for Kamala Harris over Trump. And then when they give us these sources, it's written by Israeli news sources, of course.
Yeah.
But well, who are we listening to? You know what I'm saying? Like, what group are we listening to? Because there are traitors among us all. Like, if you was to, if any country came here and tried to liberate America and was like, black people, what do you want? And, they'd be like, all right, go listen to Cory Booker. I'm like, no. No, I'm not listening to y'all. I'm going to listen to facts. I'm going to listen to the facts. And the facts say that, Mossad and the U.S. and Israel is just can't keep their colonizing noses out of shit for some reason.
Yep, and they're trying to do this Zionist takeover of the entirety of the global South and any country who spoke out against Israel on the international stage after their genocide in Gaza, which is why Donald Trump and the West been ramping up tariffs and attacking South Africa. They would never forget South Africa for what they've done. But this is the nonsense. I'm gonna show you guys some true cringe. We about to cringe so hard together, my friends, because this is the bullshit that is being supported by the fake ass Western Iranian diaspora and Dr. Cornel West. Like, this is the future. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the future that they fucking want for Iranian women. So let's play the video. This is gonna be painful. I'm gonna turn this music off because that shit definitely gonna get me in trouble. Always great to have Rome here, but you guys see, this is the OnlyFans revolution. This is the OnlyFans revolution. You guys see the fantasy? You guys see, this is what they want. Ew, brother. Ew, what is that, brother? Ew, brother. Ew.
God, bro.
They want to strip Iranian women. This is the OnlyFans revolution, and apparently they stripped their mother as like some sort of metaphor for what they're gonna do to the Iranian. Like, is this the metaphor you really want to send? This is what Zionists believe will appeal to the West. And what does it say about Western men that this is appeal to them? This is, and I would like to play like this is music pretty much. But you guys see, they say we have a revolution. Look, they got the Israeli flag next to the fake Shah Iran flag. Ew, brother. Ew, what's this? What is this? This the revolution that you guys supporting? Give away our sovereignty, give away our dignity for a greater Israel. You guys realize that these Iranian diaspora people who support the Iranian revolutions, just like the Venezuelan gusanos, are some of the most crazy and batshit people, the most extremist traitors in the world. That's how it works, Rome. If you're gonna create this,
Nick, stop torturing me, bro. I'm trying to listen to you. Get you down, man. You trying to. I can't focus.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to focus. I'll lose my train of thought. But look, they're stripping their moms on the internet, bro. They got their mom, bro, and stripping her as a sort of powerful feminist message. After watching that, I am now 6 million times more pro theocracy. Yeah, I'm not even religious, but I'm like, yeah, I think they got a point. I'm like,
You
yeah,
know
I think
what? I love that you said it because I love that you call it the OnlyFans revolution because look, man, that is the only place that a lot of these women are going to have to go. Like, imagine a revolution actually happened, a regime change actually happened on Iran, man. Like, these women are going to be so fucked, you know. So I like that you call it that because think about the women that is living here in the richest country in the world, you know, one of the richest countries in the world right now. They have to depend on OnlyFans. Like they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to. I back them. Whatever the hell they want to do with their body, you can do with your body, right? But you shouldn't be pushed to those corners to have to, you know, do these things. And you know, we know OnlyFans is controlled by Israel, so I can see them actually pushing for a lot of women to join OnlyFans to make a lot of money, you know, push capitalism and all kind of materialism upon them. So yeah, I can see this actually leading to an actual OnlyFans revolution. That is crazy.
Like the thing is, I was very socially liberal. You know what I mean? But when you have OnlyFans account. Sorry, OnlyFans as a business generating billions in revenue. Like you gotta know that they gain over 1 million users every year. Like there's being socially liberal, and then there's, hey man, what's the fucking going on in our society? Why do women feel like they can't make their means in without shaking their ass on the internet? That's not a good thing. I feel like no Marxist should believe that. You know what I mean? I'm not for locking up sex workers. I don't think that's the approach. I don't think a police state approach is how you solve this problem. But I think, especially as men, like I don't know, maybe I'm being too woke here. Maybe women can have a different view, but as a man, I feel like, man, I don't think we should be advocating for a comedy where we turn everyone to prostitutes because we're not paying people their labor value. I hope people understand my critique there, especially considering OnlyFans funds the Zionist regime. That's another reason why no one who's a leftist should be shaking their ass on OnlyFans specifically. You better sell privately if you're gonna do anything like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, last time I'll share, we have Venezuela analysis who will be joining us in our second part of the show. Man, the first half of the show flew by, man. We gotta do these shows more often, Rome.
Yeah.
Have you on? We'll just scratch it. So I'm gonna bring our friends at Venezuela analysis on here very soon. But I know I have to laugh at this kind of stuff because laughing is how I keep my sanity. Things actually been crazy. like I'm gonna be real with you guys. Things are actually fucking bleak and things are actually fucking crazy. But I have to go on stream and laugh and try to be lighthearted about this kind of stuff because that's how I cope with the hell's going on. I'm still in shambles. You know, after what happened to Maduro, a great man who didn't deserve what happened. I'm still in shambles after the fall of Syria, guys.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many things that happened. I'm still in shambles over Gaza. But I come on stream and I laugh with you guys. We got to make humor out of it. Because that's my fucking coping mechanism, guys. And because what happened in Iran is serious. You know what I mean? There's a reason why I'm going so hard at Dr. Cornel West and the professional managerial class who getting this issue wrong. It is serious. You had countless Iranians who was murdered in a Mossad uprising in Iran. Ayatollah is explaining how the United States and Israel was responsible for killing several thousands of people. So you know how there's this big debate about whether there's a big death toll in Iran or not. The establishment is saying, oh, Iran is responsible for all these thousands murdered in Iran. And meanwhile, the officials in Iran and people on the ground in Iran, it's like, yeah, there was a massacre, all right. Yeah, there's a lot of people who died, but they died because these people was armed and trained by Mossad, CIA, and other traitors who deserve to be put 6 feet under the ground after what they did in Iran. And I think we won't know the full story, especially because of the blackout, which is justified. We won't know the true story about how horrific this will be, maybe for a while, maybe in a few years, maybe a little bit longer. So even though we laugh, and I do have to bring this up, this is a serious thing that happened. Like I'm reading stories about babies being hospitalized, being murdered. in Iran. Like, it's horrible. But Rome, I'll give you last thoughts on Iran or anything else you want to add. I want to bring Ricardo Vaz in. We have our expert Venezuela analysis, and we're gonna shift to Venezuela and some South American politics next. But Rome, any final thoughts before I'll wrap this segment up?
I just wanted to say, I think this is, these capitalists never think things through. This is why they are the empire is falling now. We cannot win a war with Iran. A war with Iran will call for World War III. It will jumpstart World War III way faster than what we are actually doing right now. And if anybody is backing this, sign up. I see a lot of people on Twitter. I see a lot of people on TikTok, and all of you guys, all of you mouthpieces, sign up. The army has, the recruitment has been down for a while, and seeing the patriot, the ratio doesn't match up with the patriots that's online versus the patriots that's actually going on the ground. So if you feel like you can go out there and actually win against Iran, go sign up, please, because I would love to see you come back with that flag over your casket.
Very well said. We have a great guest joining us, Ricardo Vaz. I'm gonna bring him in. Let me read a few super chats first, so we don't fall too behind. I appreciate the support. NATO, the end of all propaganda, friends. Oh, sorry, NATO, the end of all our propaganda, friends. I still want to get to that story about NATO falling apart and Trump threatening to take Greenland. I still haven't got to it yet. We may get to it very soon. But you guys know how I feel. Fuck Denmark. Denmark deserve everything. They're already slaves to the United States. I already mentioned this a few times. Bro, Denmark, you know what they're doing? They're going around on corporate media. I didn't get a chance to show you guys a few that I've seen. They're like, hey, man, do you know that we've been great allies to the United States? Don't you know we helped invade Iraq? Come on, we helped you guys invade Afghanistan. Come on, take it easy on us. We're not one of the bad countries. So Denmark cheers us committing genocide. They cheer us engaging in a sanctions regime that starves 1/3 of the world's population. And then the second the United States president treats them the same way that we treat allies in Africa, then they start to freak out. Because what we do in Denmark is the same thing we do to quote-unquote African allies. You know what I mean? But go ahead, Rome.
This is why I always remind people: if you have a military base on your country, you have already been overthrown. You are already a coup on you. And I explained this in one of my older shows, one of my last shows. I said this reminds me of the pig, the meme with the two pigs. The brother, may I have some oats? And that's what it is. The U.S. government is filling up their bellies, making them weak, making them dependable. And once you're too fat and too lazy to fight back against them, they already won, and they already have a military base on in your country. So what are you gonna do? Like if the United States government actually said, okay, well, we're gonna overthrow you with force. What is fucking Greenland actually gonna do, right? What is any of these countries actually gonna do when America just be like, you know what, enough of the aid. Enough of the aid. Let's get to killing these people. Let's go.
This is the kind of shit they're saying. Like, Denmark says it does not any. Denmark says, I think there's a typo. Denmark says it does not any threat from. I think deny. I don't know. Denmark said it does not any threat from the U.S. from Greenland. It has only threat from there might be a foreigner who wrote this, but they were explaining how. Yeah, we view Russia and China as a threat as well. Like, you guys see, we're not bad like Putin, guys. We're not like the filthy Chinese. We're not like the Africans you usually mess with. Come on. Anyway, let's get our guests in here. I'm gonna do a longer, more detailed segment on this, but I see leftists like, oh my god, well, why are we treating Denmark like this? Like, man, the only position leftists should have is that we should stand for a free Greenland. What's the name of the minority group? The Inuit? Am I getting that right? Mm-hmm. They're the indigenous culture in Greenland. I'm on their side. Like, they want to leave Denmark. Like that. Yeah, I want them to be I want Denmark to lose Greenland somehow. I want them to lose Greenland. Anyway, let's bring our guest in. Let's get to more serious reporting now. And we got a great reporter from Venezuela Analysis. We had them on many times before. We follow your guys' work. You guys do great work on South American politics and geopolitics and world affairs. Thank you for joining us. Great reporter, Ricardo Vaz. Thank you for making time and joining us on RBN tonight.
No, my pleasure. Hi, guys. How are you doing? I was just catching up on the discussion. I actually wanted to pick up on something you said.
Feel free.
Feel free. We are in shambles on many things, like Syria or Palestine, of course. But the issue of laughter is important, and I think it's on one hand not taking ourselves too seriously, and also not allowing the imperialists to win on the moral front. So it's a way of energizing and staying connected, and it's very common here in Venezuela. Venezuelans have like an immediate and very snappy sense of humor, which
Maduro was dancing.
Yeah, Maduro is.
That's why they got Maduro, because he was dancing, and Trump was triggered because he was laughing at Donald Trump. He's like, "We gotta get this motherfucker now." But go ahead, Ricardo.
And people are saying, "Oh, I mean, there's no way that Trump can be this petty." And well, and you're just talking about Greenland, and today there was this letter going around, and people were saying, "I mean, this has got to be fake." Trump saying, "Oh, since you didn't give me the Nobel Peace Prize, now I'm no longer interested in peace." And then the argument, just because a boat landed there 500 years ago doesn't make it theirs. I mean, you gotta be careful with that type of argument. But I mean, you're absolutely right about this issue of Denmark and Europe in general. I mean, they're outraged, and they're not saying the quiet part out loud, but they're saying, why are you treating us like we're not white? Is essentially what they're saying. Why are you treating us like we're the rest of the world? But it's what Rome was saying. Europe has just surrendered so much. I mean, they allowed U.S. bases to get in there. They destroyed their own economies to fund this absurd war in Ukraine, and now they're in no bargaining position to oppose anything Trump wants to do. There was a video a few days ago, I don't know if you saw. It was Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and basically, I mean, they're all outraged at Trump, but they can't find a way to say no. And so Meloni was saying, yeah, I know we disagree, but what's the alternative? Do we close the American embassies, kick out their bases, storm McDonald's? And actually, those options all sound pretty good. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell people, man, don't feel bad for these Danes, because they're reaping what they sow. And I explained many times, this is what they're doing to Denmark is what they do all the time to their allies in Africa.
They just don't expect it to come around.
Yeah,
it goes to show that white supremacy, like I was trying to explain to people, white supremacy and and capitalism has no bottom. It only can consume.
Denmark.
You know what I'm saying? It only has greed. So, and you can never be white enough for white supremacy, because once they get rid of all of us, let's say all of us are gone, they get rid of all the black people, all the brown people, then they're gonna start looking like, hold on, you're Italian, you're not white, right? You know what I'm saying? Then it's gonna go from the Italians, like, hold on, you Irish, right? Then it's gonna go, because they did this before. Like it comes back to a full circle moment to where white supremacy will always eat at each other. It's just a snake eating at its tail. And if you don't put no alcohol in it, it's going to spit itself up. But sooner or later, it's going to end up killing itself.
Dude, my favorite.
That now.
Go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I was just going to say that, and maybe this will tie to Venezuela. It's also about understanding the present moment of, the decline of the empire, and how, I mean, the Trump administration, to its credit, actually admits this, that, the U.S. is in decline. And so all of this that they're doing with extreme violence all over the world is their way of pushing back and trying to, fortify their position for an eventual conflict with China. And in that sense, they don't see anyone, especially Europe, as an ally. They see them as vassals, and, they have to get in line, or, what are they going to do? I mean, Germany sent 2 military personnel to Greenland, and then Trump threatened tariffs, and they brought the 2 guys back. I mean, that's just how ridiculous it is.
And now they're saying that NATO is going to be dismantled, or possibly dismantled, because of Trump's threats. This is what I shared earlier, how Denmark was complicit with our torture program in Iraq. So my favorite genre of geopolitics, like if I had to pick one of my favorite genres, is watching United States puppets get bullied by the United States. Like, this is the bed you made, man. So no one should feel bad. That's why I always...
No sympathy from us.
And this is what I'm watching like a child at the theater of a Marvel movie. Right? Of this, I'm loving this theater. Look at these headlines. I'll show a few, and then we get to Venezuela here soon. The Trump's Greenland threats show Europe must prepare for NATO's end. Sign me up for that. Sign up for that. Here's another one. Europe should prepare for Greenland's annexation and the end of NATO. Fam, we don't have time tonight, but do you know how many segments they have done that I watched in glee with a smile on my face on MSNBC? They're describing how this might be the end of NATO. I might do a solo stream. I'll show you guys a few, but they are so fucking funny. They're like, man, Donald Trump, his threats on Greenland, it's gonna be the end of the transatlantic alliance as we know it. And I'm like, dude, where's
the bad news?
I want to get your thoughts on this. Here's Kaja Kallis. Since you've been following this story somewhat, I'm gonna throw this in here. Look at this is one of the worst diplomats that ever been given a position of power. Kaja Kallis. She's a friend of the show. We roast her all the time on this show. So this is her melting down over Trump's threats on Greenland. And Europe is having a really hard time dealing with this because their career has been made because they're Zionist puppets. Kaja Kallis, after pretending to condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine, she put out statements that said, "Oh, we monitoring the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro." Like she's an outright Nazi who destroyed and trampled any legitimacy of international law. Anyway, I think her reaction is pretty funny. I won't get your thoughts, Ricardo. Because you guys see, she immediately blames Russia and China. She immediately goes to Putin and Xi Jinping derangement syndrome. China and Russia must be having a field day. They are the ones who benefit from divisions among allies. So once again, Xi Jinping does nothing and he wins. Once again, if Greenland security is at risk, we can address this inside of NATO. Tariff risks making Europe and the United States poorer and undermine our shared prosperity. We also cannot let our dispute distract us from our core task of helping to end Russia's war against Ukraine. Fam, the United States is threatening your sovereignty. The United States is kidnapping presidents, committing genocide. We realize that this Nazi Barbie is bringing up Russia and Ukraine. So, Ricardo, do you have any reaction to how the European leaders have been melting down with the Greenland threat? I find this hilarious. This is me laughing to cope with the craziness that's going on. This is one of the few funny stories I find legitimately hilarious. But Ricardo, any thoughts?
This is legitimately funny. It's not really a coping mechanism. But it's like Denmark. Denmark saying, "Oh, I mean, we went along for the ride and all the atrocities in Iraq. I mean, here, people like Kallas, they were on board the genocide. They were fully on board the war in Ukraine. So they're basically saying, why are you doing this to us when we're on your side on everything?" But I think the key distinction is that they're not really allies. That's the difference. They're just subordinated to the US and they have to dance to whatever music Trump plays.
And Trump is doing this to also, make himself look like a strong leader, but it's not hitting. You know what I'm saying? You're picking on countries like Venezuela, Greenland. You talk shit about China from time to time, but you don't really want to box with China. You know what I'm saying? We've seen you get in and out the ring. You don't really want to box with China. So all of this chest poking out, it's really for show. And, I can see him, as a leader of a country, if I see the empire crumbling, I wouldn't want to fund NATO either. You know what I'm saying? Because we got a lot of shit to do. And, they're gonna do whatever we say anyway, because we have nukes. And if you don't do what the hell we say, what the fuck? So all the cards are already in our hand. We don't even need this NATO alliance because you're gonna do my betting anyway. So I can see him trying to pull the rug on NATO, and I really don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, do it benefit Russia and China? Yes, but at the same time, NATO was only really a name because you guys are on a leash. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he tell you bark, you're going to bark. If he tell you sit, you're going to sit, as you are doing right now under NATO protection.
Very well said. Like, why do we even have NATO? Like I support what Thomas Massey his bill to abolish NATO. Like you guys realize NATO accomplishes nothing other than making us more unsafe, right? They, in order to justify their existence and their salaries, they provoke never-ending conflict with Russia. Now they're looking at it with China. They need to do that in order to justify the existence of the alliance. This is a basic critique that even Noam Chomsky made. The alliance like NATO is a precursor to more conflict. It creates conflict between us and Russia. If there was no NATO, there's no need for us to be in conflict with Russia or any of these states. So I think we need to get rid of it. But Ricardo, any final thoughts on Europe before we move on?
Just make a small counter argument on the idea of the end of NATO. Maybe that's not on the cards, because remember that Trump was saying this exactly. We are the ones doing everything in NATO and actually forcing these countries to increase their military spending, and that's of course a bonanza for the military-industrial complex. So I think one thing that might come out of this, they're going to get Greenland one way or the other. Whether it's formal or it's just installing 50 military bases in Greenland, that's going to happen. The Europeans are just going to have to shut up and deal with it. But it might be even more leverage for the US to actually press these guys, because they have no spine, to increase their military spending even more, to the detriment of their own peoples. It's not like Europe is doing particularly well on the economic front, even more so after they sacrificed their own industries to fund this war in Ukraine. So, I just see their leverage becoming worse and worse, and they really have no bargaining power right now.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I don't want anyone to be confused, because we covered this extensively as well. Donald Trump has been a boon to NATO and military spend. That was Mark Rutte said. Mark Rutte, the NATO secretary, he was like, man, you guys don't understand. Donald Trump, he's been amazing for NATO. We've been trying to increase our military spending forever. And he had the political will to force countries to do it. So don't get me wrong. He been a great boon to NATO. A lot of people are speculating would Europe finally get tired of being bullied by the United States. And I'm like, bro, that's pure cope. These European leaders, they might be talking tough right now, but they're going to quickly fold and do what Donald Trump or any of the United States public wants. Just like they was quiet about Venezuela, like Kaja Kallis often put out after bitching and moaning for years about international law. They couldn't even condemn or charge Putin with crimes of extermination because that would condemn them as well. They don't want to open the floodgates. That's why they charge them with bullshit like kidnapping children. Well, essentially, he found adoptive homes from families of ethnic Russians who was murdered by the Ukrainian regime. And then they charge them with war crimes for that, which is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the amount of children that Israel outright murdered in Gaza. Kaja Kallis in the EU lets them get away with it. They pretend to care about international law as the United States just straight up kidnaps Maduro. And they release statements like, we got to monitor the situation because that's all the EU does. They just monitor shit, guys. That's their power. But anyway, that's just my intro. I want to get your thoughts on this.
All the EU is, it's a big-ass TV screen. Yeah.
It's a monitor situation. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on there's so many ways we can start with Venezuela, because it's been one of those situations where decades happens in weeks in Venezuela. You know what I mean? Sometimes a week, a decade can happen. Sometimes a decade, a week can happen. That's what's going on in Venezuela. And I want to start here because I saw this headline like, Jesus fucking Christ. You guys see how the corporate media is already falling in line with Trump's tyranny and neocon talking points here. And I want to get thoughts on this and the United States aggression in Venezuela. Here, New York Times, legitimizing Trump administration talking points here. What to know about Hezbollah ties to Venezuela? The U.S. authorities have accused Hezbollah of complicity in drug trafficking and money laundering schemes in Venezuela, which even if they was, it's still not. They're not breaking any international law. But sorry, I'll shut up. Ricardo, what's your thoughts on this? Anything on this?
Yeah, actually, I had a deja vu because I wrote an article in 2019 precisely debunking a New York Times article about Hezbollah's presence in Venezuela.
Oh, so I haven't been on this bullshit then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of recurring. They bring it up, and it's always some source who has seen some document that says some things, and then they find some high-profile politician or business leader that has an Arab name, and they say he's the connection to Hezbollah. Same with, I mean, to a lesser degree with Hamas. I mean, Nobel quote unquote Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, uh, in trying to get Trump's attention, said that Hamas and Hezbollah have a huge presence in Venezuela. They have training camps and whatever. I mean, these are groups that are born out of resistance to occupation. I mean, they are as local as you can imagine, and also, I mean, Hezbollah is a religious Shia group. I mean, they are against drug trafficking. So why would they be trafficking drugs halfway around the world? It just beats any. Doesn't really pass the smell test. I'll have to read the report, but I imagine it's just the same, half-assed arguments and allegations from anonymous sources. But I mean, to the larger picture, it shows kind of how the case has been built. Because when you do something like this, kidnapping President Maduro, this is plainly a violation of international law. And then, I mean, there are no more arguments. It starts and ends there. It's not like, if a president is not sufficiently popular or if he has ties to this or that group, then, it's okay to kidnap him. It doesn't work like that. And that's kind of what the media has been doing. It's kind of doing damage control for the administration, trying to create or reheat, in this case, all these narratives, kind of delegitimizing Venezuela to even if they're not going to say it out loud, say, it was okay, it was for the greater good that the US actually did this. But I mean, even their own narratives fall apart. I mean, I'm not sure if we talked about this last time around, but there was this huge threat, the Cartel de los Soles, a drug cartel directly run by Maduro and high-ranking officials that was, quote unquote, flooding the US with drugs, and it was designated as a foreign terrorist organization and whatnot. And now Maduro is actually facing trial in New York. And the indictment, the U.S. Justice Department indictment, actually dropped all references to the Cartel de los Soles. So even in the safe confines of a U.S. courtroom, they knew that there was no way that this nonsense was going to hold any water. And just an aside before coming back, there were U.S. puppet countries here in Latin America, Argentina, Paraguay, and Ecuador, at least that I can remember, that their parliaments declared the Cartel de los Soles a terrorist organization. So what do you do now that the organization does not even exist? So it just shows. I mean, of course, it's not a novelty for any of us, but how the corporate media is very deeply tied to these imperialist attacks against the global south and beyond. And there was a report on fairness and accuracy in Reporting magazine that said that the New York Times and the Washington Post had advanced knowledge of the January 3 military operation. And they actually didn't publish it, even though it's kind of basic journalistic responsibility. They didn't publish anything, I believe something like to protect or to not endanger US soldiers. I mean, never mind the Venezuelan soldiers and the Venezuelan civilians. They see themselves as being responsible for the safety of the US military in doing these outrageous crimes abroad.
I just want to say a lot of this propaganda that they are putting out is straight up projection. Because, we know Israel have ties here and there. They train our police officers, ICE agents, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to know where the fuck Hezbollah and, these Yemenis, where Hamas is getting all this money, man. Because I know I funded Hamas. I found a couple of loopholes to fund Hamas. But y'all niggas ain't getting that much money, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, how the fuck is Hamas going to, you know what I'm saying? Because they said Hamas was in Europe at one time. Then they said it was going to be some.
They said Hamas was in Australia.
In Australia, they said it was going to be some false flags here in America. Like, where's they getting all this money to try? Hold on, let me stop this genocide that's happening to my people. Let me just stop the bombs midair. Go over here and fight a whole nother war. Like, what are you talking about? Is these people connected? Do they maybe know each other from here or there? Maybe, you know what I'm saying? Do they train rice grain? Maybe. But where the fuck is that? I don't get it. It's just stupid.
If they're truly desperate, bro. If they're truly desperate, they will pull the card they used on Nicolas Maduro last year. Do you guys remember when he said when they were pushing the idea that Nicolas Maduro funds ISIS and terrorist groups around the world.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember that, Ricardo.
that they were sending ISIS and Hamas through migration across the border. Yeah,
Bro,
but
I
actually,
see their focus groups.
but to Rom's point, it's always a projection. The special forces team that kidnapped Maduro, the Delta Squad, something. They're out of Fort Bragg, which is one of the known locations where you're more likely to have a drug overdose than anywhere else in the United States. That on the one hand, I mean, it's the CIA and other parts of the U.S. establishment that have a long track record of being involved in drug trafficking. That on the one hand, and on the other, there was a U.S.-friendly president in Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, if you remember. He committed, blatant fraud in 2017, and then, his drug trafficking was so outrageous that he eventually got deported to the U.S. He was tried and convicted, and then Trump pardoned him. So, don't ask me to take the drug trafficking allegations seriously if you just pardon someone who had been actually convicted with plenty of evidence.
I was going to say that. What the fuck?
I think I said it before. I think that was just a pure gangster. But it's like it was a show of power. Like even if you don't believe our allegations of drug trafficking, it doesn't fucking matter. We just want to let you know that if we want you dead, we will just accuse you of being a drug trafficker. And even if you are a drug trafficker, we like you, we will let you go. To me, that's the only way I can intellectually interpret that action. But it was just a show, like, hey man, we would do whatever we want. We don't care if it's intellectually consistent. We don't care if it's morally consistent. We're just showing you how much power we have. And I want to see like for the focus groups, the test polling they do, because they learned the establishment learned the best way to manufacture war. I mean, they tried some shit in the Middle East that didn't work. They learn now, especially because of the rise of the fentanyl crisis. Because a lot of suburbanite white Americans are super obsessed with fighting the war on drugs and they lost their entire life. So they learned through focus groups, through test study groups, that the best way to turn the American people against a country is to accuse them of drug trafficking. They was astounded by how successful this was when they started accusing China of fentanyl trafficking. They were throwing everything at China. Hey, China authoritarian. Hey, China got hard drug laws. China this, China that. Then they're like, hey, don't you know that China is responsible for the fentanyl crisis? Then white boomers everywhere was like, what? Then fuck China. We need to do something about goddamn China right now. And they're like, oh, we found it. We found our talking point. So now they learn that we're just going to accuse Venezuela. He's a drug lord. And don't you know Putin? He's a drug lord. Hamas, they smuggling drugs. They're using that now to legitimize every single talking point and every single way to push their wars. The same way they fearmonger over the cartels, even though they arm the cartels. Yes. They say they want to bomb the cartels who they armed and funded in Mexico. But I want to ask Ricardo about this because this is about the Venezuelan opposition. I don't know if you saw this. I think you mentioned this earlier. This utter humiliation ritual that Maria Corina Machado had to go through when she gave it. What Donald Trump has said regarding Nobel Peace Prize has been absolutely astounding. He calls up, wasn't it like the president of Norway or some shit? Not even Denmark. He's like, hey man, since you guys didn't give me that Nobel Peace Prize, I have no reason to even give a fuck about peace anymore. I'm taking Greenland, and she got the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm gonna start war in Venezuela. So Maria Corina Machado visits the White House and goes through what can only be described as a humiliation ritual. So I want to get your take on this, but not only just this embarrassing moment and deeply discrediting moment for the Venezuelan opposition, but how the people in Venezuela, based on your reporting, based on what you guys, the conversations you guys have, how do you guys think the Venezuelan people would respond to Maria Corina Machado? Because Trump is like, hey man, we can't install her as leader, and despite what liberals are saying, he's right. Because if you put her as leader, I don't think it will go well. But what are your thoughts? Ricardo?
Yeah, and also shout out to George Galloway, who actually had the response to the previous tweet saying, aren't you embarrassed posting this? So Yeah, I mean, it was a very degrading scene for Maria Corina Machado. I mean, first of all, just the absolute uh, irony of it all. I mean, here is a person who has spent her political career asking the US to bomb her country. She gets a Nobel Peace Prize and then symbolically gifts it to the person who actually bombed her country. So, peace, I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize had kind of lost its credibility anyway, if it ever had any. But I mean, this might have been the final nail in the coffin. But I mean, before we get to what the Venezuelan people think, I mean, Trump himself, it was actually surprising. Perhaps the best part or the only saving grace of the terrible attacks on January 3 were just how decisively he dismissed her. He just said, because people were thinking, after they kidnapped Maduro, who's going to be in charge? Are they just going to finally put their puppet in power? And Trump himself said, oh, no, she has no conditions to lead the country. There's no respect for her, something like this. She has no respect and support in the country. So it was a very, very rude dismissal of her prospects. And she basically has no reaction. She cannot fight back. Only thing she can do is continue to grovel and try to ingratiate herself with Trump and offer things with, a shiny poster and so on to see if Trump is going to pay any attention to her. But even the White House after the meeting said, this was just a courtesy to get, something else shining on the wall, but it's not going to have any influence on policy. So for her, it was a spectacular fall from grace for someone who was the most visible force asking for the US to do precisely something like this. And there was a report, I mean, even from the New York Times of all sources, a few days after January 3, where they kind of detailed the chronology of how Maria Corina Machado kind of blew her own prospects, just how, these opposition people, they feel like everyone owes them something. So they went on Twitter and newspapers attacking Biden officials, calling them out, and Trump officials actually came to Caracas, wanted to meet with her. She blew them off, and I mean, she wants she wants the tail to wag the dog. She wants U.S. officials to do her bidding, and over time, that kind of rubbed them the wrong way, and that's why she's now. I mean, who knows what she's going to do next? I mean, she's just going to continue appearing on talk shows and.
This should show all black and brown people across the world. This is what trying to get proximity to whiteness would get you. It doesn't matter how many times you rub that dog belly. It's rabid. It's gonna bite you, or it's gonna turn on you one day. It don't matter how much you feed it. So this is what it gets you. And we should know. Well, she should know, obviously, but she's an idiot. That Trump do not like women in power positions. Like if they up under him, they are all right because he still called the shots. But for her to call herself the president or whatever, no. That's not gonna work. He's a womanizer. He's a sexist, and he will not never give a woman that much power.
One thing to remember as well, the Venezuelan opposition. This is true in many instances of South American politics, where everything is reflected in class war and everything is reflected based on the remnants of the Cold War. So Maria Corina Machado, I actually don't know her racial breakdown because it's not really that important, but the Venezuelan opposition, and just like the Argentina ruling class with Milei, they view themselves as white adjacent, the same way they view themselves as Zionist. That's why Maria Corina Machado praised Benjamin Netanyahu for his genocide in Gaza, and she said this is a guideline for security that Venezuela needs to follow, like endorsing outright genocide of her opposition. And that's why she endorsed Zionism. That's why Milei is a Zionist. And Ricardo, I would love your thoughts on this if you have any. But I think it's a pattern of the people who side with the United States and imperialism are people who see themselves benefiting from that. These are people who are usually white adjacent. They're usually the capitalist class. That's why there was a lot of elite capitalist elements in Venezuelan media that was opposed to Maduro, because they didn't support the Hugo Chavez revolution. It was supportive of the right-wing capitalist retaliation that funded the Condors and Death Squads in South America. And what I'm saying accurate, Ricardo, I think you want to chime in. What I'm saying somewhat accurate is how I view it.
Yeah, it's absolutely accurate. And actually, the racial angle is not negligible by any means. This traditional Venezuelan opposition, these elites, they've all been historically very white because they descend directly from the oligarchy that installed itself in power after independence. So they've been in power for 200 years, and basically they thought the country was like their own personal farm to manage, and that they were all destined to hold power. And then along comes this. Uh, Colonel from they were also from the capital, from the big cities, and then comes this colonel from the countryside, and he identifies himself as indigenous descendant, as African descendant, and actually gives all a bunch of social rights and political rights to this huge black and brown majority that had historically not just been marginalized but completely made invisible. And so that was part of the hatred. That was why there still is such a visceral hatred from these elites against the Bolivarian process and against Chavez and then against Maduro. And so they absolutely see themselves as white. I mean, there was an episode here. So October 12th is the anniversary of Columbus reaching the side of the world by mistake. And in Spain, it's called the Day of the Race. And here it was celebrated as well by Latin American countries. And then Chavez, as great as he was, gave it a spin and rebranded it as Indigenous Resistance Day. But these Venezuelan elites continue to say, no, for us it's Race Day, and we are proud of our Spanish heritage. So they absolutely, with Argentina it's perhaps even more obvious, but they absolutely see themselves as Europeans who are here, who came here and demand the right to rule over the quote unquote less civilized subjects.
Yeah, when I was studying world affairs and studying history and learning about South American politics, especially revolutionary politics, it's so enlightening once you realize that the consequences of the Cold War can still be felt. That the battle line truly was drawn on class lines, racial lines, because I think like a large percent of Venezuela, like 40%, 40% of it is indigenous. And the indigenous, more brown population is in support of Maduro versus the white, more affluent being part of the opposition. And this has been true across multiple countries. Like if you look at Bolsonaro, Bolsonaro, who also kissed the wall in Israel. I got a lot of criticism of Lula. I'm not saying Lula's perfect, but Bolsonaro is definitely the imperialist puppet out of the two. He's a hardcore Zionist, supported by Trump and all the Epstein pedophiles, and his support base is the same. It's the upper class white Brazilians versus Lula. A lot of his support are very religious Afro Brazilians, poor, the indigenous. So like I'm bringing those two up because those are two large countries, but it's very similar across South America, and you learn a lot more about this region when you realize that the interest from the United States and the people they prop up in South America, it represents the interest of the capitalist class. People like Javier Milei, who's willing to implement austerity on his population. All the right-wing leaders that they prop in South America, they all implement austerity. They all support IMF bankrupting their country. It's the same thing, and they wage war against countries who fight for their sovereignty. The same old, same old. Well, the last thing I'm going to ask you, because we're going to wrap up here soon. I want to ask you about the current government in Venezuela, and I've been very careful with how I've been reporting it because there's been a lot of narratives put out there. That's why I'm glad that you're here to help clear things up. And I've been trying to defer to people who've been doing reporting on the ground, because there's been people that said that Delcy Rodriguez betrayed Maduro, but I've been cautious in saying that because it seems like that's what the United States want to put out there. They've been putting out these narratives to try to sow distrust in the current Venezuelan government. That's why I've been very careful how I report this. So that's why I want to get your thoughts and your perspective on how the current Venezuelan government is handling this aggression against Trump, because the corporate media is paying as Delcy Rodriguez is getting along with Trump, and that's getting some people the impression that Delcy Rodriguez sold out Maduro, But at the same time, Delcy Rodriguez and the Venezuelan government, they sound defiant in their statements. So once again, I'm being careful how I've been reporting this. I want to get your perspective, Ricardo. What's your thoughts on Delcy Rodriguez and how they're handling this Western threat to their sovereignty?
Yeah, I think being careful is the responsible thing to do at this time. I mean, you were saying sometimes decades happen in a weekend, and it's only been a little over 2 weeks since this attack, and we're still trying to figure out everything that's going on. I kind of understand where these theories of betrayal come from, but as you investigate the evidence and what actually went down on those early hours of January 3rd, you kind of understand better. And at least, from all the elements I'm seeing, I don't see any reason to back that theory that there was some kind of, not just Delcy, but, the high-ranking leaders, making a deal and selling out Maduro. I think it was a matter, on one hand, of, just absurd U.S. military superiority, especially on the technological front, their ability to wage electromagnetic warfare, disable raiders, and so on. But also, I mean, we have, as revolutionaries, we have to be honest as well. I mean, just the Venezuelan side was not up to the task. I mean, their capacity was not what had been expected, and their readiness was not what was expected. I mean, there were reports that half the personnel were off duty on Christmas and New Year's vacation. They had no plan B for when the U.S. knocked out command and control operations. So, of course, the U.S. has incredible hegemony on the military front, but it also begs the question on how these countries in the global south need to prepare their own defenses to actually have some kind of deterrent and not allow these kinds of attacks to go on. I mean, there was resistance. I mean, the Venezuelan soldiers went out and tried to fight back against the helicopters, but they were just completely overwhelmed. So that on the one hand. And then as to what happened later, we have to understand on the one hand that the government, has a gun to its head. I mean, they're dealing in a very delicate balance. There's the threat of renewed attacks and so on. I mean, they also have to press for the release and return of President Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. I mean, First Lady for short, but it's important to understand that she's also a very accomplished political figure in her own right. I mean, she's a legislator in the National Assembly. So right now, I mean, at the same time, I mean, we have to understand and we have to direct our critique, and especially in the global north, the action should be directed at U.S. imperialism, at denouncing and building momentum against U.S. imperialism. But at the same time, we shouldn't ignore or deny what's going on. And what we've seen so far is the U.S. imposing very draconian and perhaps even neo-colonial conditions on Venezuela, for example, when it comes to the oil dealings. Right now, the proceeds are being deposited so Venezuela produces the oil, but it doesn't get the proceeds. So the U.S. is managing them and then is sending them back. Some $300 million have already or are on the way, and they're going to be offered under certain conditions only to the private sector. So all these are concessions that the Venezuelan government is doing right now in an effort to maintain some kind of economic stability, because it also didn't begin on January 3rd. I mean, we should remember that this is a country that has been under economic sanctions since at least 2017. It was under a near complete naval blockade since December. And so there was really an urgency in terms of avoiding a complete collapse of the economy, and that actually made them much more vulnerable in these negotiations with the U.S. So we have to be cautious, as you were saying, have to be responsible in what we report and what we're seeing. But at the same time, we shouldn't deny what's going on. I mean, that we shouldn't try and manufacture a victory out of defeat. And going forward, there are two things to keep in mind. One is how the Venezuelan leadership tries to improve its room for maneuver and how it negotiates with the U.S. under better conditions. And on the other, let's say the beating heart of the Bolivarian Revolution, which are the popular movements, they've always been dismissed and underestimated, and they are mobilized and they are committed. They are not going to give up on their socialist horizon, and as long as that happens, the fight is still on. And of course, they understand that the government is negotiating on one hand, and they, for the most part, support the government in the sense of maintaining unity in the Bolivarian movement, but they're not going to give up on the the standards and the flags that they bear for revolutionary transformation of society.
Yeah, that's a fantastic breakdown, Ricardo. I just have a few theories. I'll say theories because it's just my thoughts on what's going on here. Because once again, I try to be very careful. There are a lot of people who are claiming Delcy Rodriguez and the Venezuelan government just outright sold out Maduro. Once again, I think people need to be very careful before they make those kind of claims. If there was a deal to sell out Nicolas Maduro, I don't think the United States would have used the kind of force that they did. You know what I mean? You guys know that over 100 Venezuelans died that day. Is one of the things that they don't talk about. They say it was such a clean, efficient invasion. No, it was an operation that caused a lot of blood to be shed. Now, would that be? No, don't get me wrong. The United States have no problem doing that. But do you guys think they would do that if there was a deal already on the table? That's why I lean. That's why I'm using the word theory. I lean against the theory that he was sold out. I view this more as being like the Syria strategy. Like there's a similar strategy that they've been using. They use trial and error. They got a lot of experience toppling governments. So weakening the government and the military forces by the use of sanctions, weakening the regime, weakening the resistance, chipping away at it piece by piece, and then launching one giant operation that they can no longer resist. I think that's the new strategy they're using because remember what happened to Assad. You had Israel and the United States that was stealing wheat, they were stealing water, they was actively stealing Syria's natural resources on top of the massive sanctions regime. And that's when the fake ass Zionist Syria revolution happened. That's why the regime was too weak to even fight back at that point. A lot of people criticize Assad for mismanagement or whatever, but the regime weakened them. I see the same thing happen in Venezuela. They had the blockade that was wearing down the government. There was a lot of pressure on the Venezuelan people. They've been beat down by sanctions. And the United States, who were preparing for this operation, found a moment and they pounced and they put off a massive victory for themselves and the empire and snatching Maduro. But I don't see any. I think the regime would naturally weaken by sanctions and many betrayals by other Latin states. That's why I personally don't believe that he was sold out. But I think any theories that people want to put out there is legitimate.
I think what
I
it
just
is,
go ahead, Ron, chime in.
I think what it is, a lot of people got their feelings in this, and I understand that, when we get too much emotion in it, we don't start to sound too logical, right? So, the U.S. has a lot of power, and there was a lot of people that was on the front lines that had said that they witnessed that type of power, the strategies. They was ready. They was ready. They was taking out anybody who got in their way, who was in their way. They really led a road to destruction, to get this man. And yeah, like Nick said, it wouldn't have took all of that. It wouldn't have took all of that. If they wanted something clean, they would have just had her shoot him.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Those are my deductions I'm making. I see some people agree. I see some people disagree in the chat. Those are my deductions I made. Ricardo, any other thoughts you have before we about to wrap up here soon. But any other additional thoughts, Ricardo?
No, just to echo what you're saying. I mean, it's possible in theory that there was a deal, but I think in that case they would have avoided the bloodshed. I think this was, as you both said, just a consequence of the wearing down due to sanctions on all fronts, including the military, and then finding a particular moment of vulnerability to do this operation. Because it's not just about Venezuela; it's also about sending a message to the hemisphere. You heard Trump after the operation saying, Colombia is next, and then Cuba, and then Mexico, and whatever. And so and also after Trump mobilized all these forces in the Caribbean, the aircraft carrier and 12 warships and all the air power and so on, they needed something to show for it, and this was it. There's also a matter of people perhaps overestimating a bit the question of the multipolar world and how Russia and China would be opposed to this. But I think that also, again, as revolutionaries, we have to understand the material conditions. Russia and China might support Venezuela, but they are very far away. It's not when we talk about Vietnam, but Vietnam was close to the Soviet Union and to China in terms of supplying, establishing logistical supply lines and so on. I mean, Venezuela is very far away, and Russia and China's response on the diplomatic front has been forceful, but at the same time a bit underwhelming in the sense that they're not forcing anything to actually have a political cost for the U.S. And so perhaps when people are facing these premises that don't hold out, they search for another theory that might explain things. But at this moment, I don't see any evidence to suggest that it was some kind of coordinated betrayal.
Yeah, I think you guys underestimate how golden Kim Jong Un actually is, fam. Right. I think, bro, Kim Jong Un is definitely golden, and he been vindicated every single fucking year. Man. Anyway, that's a conversation for a whole nother day. Like, bro, Kim Jong Un,
you got a nuclear weapon.
You guys feel like he has military deals and agreements with the state of Russia. He got military deals and agreements with China. He is the most accomplished Kim of all time. These are things that North Korea was talking about for decades. These are things that U.S. neocons was fearful of. Kim Jong, I don't want to go on a whole rant on it too much, but Kim Jong Un turned North Korea to a legitimate resistance state through a series of moves and maneuvers. And what he has done will go down history. I know a lot of Western leftists don't want to hear it right now. I know you guys are not ready for this conversation, but I think he even surpassed his father, Kim Jong-il, with the military corporations and deals. Like Russia. Anyway, that's a conversation for a whole nother day. I think Kim Jong-un made a lot of great moves despite the sanctions on his country, and he turned North Korea to a legitimate powerhouse on the world stage. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. Last question to Ricardo, because I don't want to take too much more of your time. I've been greatly enjoying your input, your analysis. That's why it's always great. Make sure you guys follow Venezuela analysis. Make sure you guys follow Ricardo. I'm learning a lot from you guys, as I always do. And one thing that the world should learn from Kim Jong-un, and are probably mistakes that other people made, is that, all them accusations of Maduro being tough on his opposition. Fam, me and Ron, we talked about this before. Yeah. This motherfucker, he was not tough enough. Like, everything that they accused Maduro of being, he probably should have been. You know what I mean? Everything that he accused him of being, and they were like, man, you can't be an authoritarian leftist. Man, I think there have been a lot of left thinkers who fell for that shit, man. They're like, man, yeah, we can't be too authoritarian. We gotta allow CIA elements to exist in our society. Fam, maybe uncomfortable with it, but if me and Rome ever take power, we're purging CIA elements.
They go.
Anyway, we're not allowing it. We can't allow it, bro. That was Kim Jong-un. He understood this. You know what I mean? Gee, they understand this. But anyway, I want to get your thoughts on this, Ricardo. I'm just having fun now. Now the corporate media is melting down because after hints of betrayal, after people criticize them for not being ready for this attack, they're doing what many quote unquote, I say quote unquote, emphasizing that, authoritarian leftists like me been advocating for. You gotta take your enemies seriously, man. You gotta crack down on these United States motherfuckers in your country. So now there are a ton. I'm showing Reuters. There's a Bloomberg article that I'm ad blocked out of that's saying the same thing. They're like, Venezuela's new leader, facing internal division, moves to tighten her grip on power. And there's a Bloomberg article that essentially said the same. I can't show it to you guys, but they're like, Venezuela new leader is cranking up her authoritarian tactics and cracking down on division. I'm like, fam, this is what they should have been doing. But anyway, I want you to respond to this, Ricardo. And do you think this is accurate, or is it just state propaganda? Because there's a good chance this is also kind of propaganda too. But we can end our Venezuela analysis on this. But any final takes on this? Any reactions to these kind of these headlines are everywhere right now. They're just one example of them. Any take, Ricardo?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation and propaganda going on. And people say, oh, Maduro is too much of a Stalinist. And I was thinking, oh, maybe a little more Stalinism would be helpful. Yeah. But I mean, there's only one concrete matter, that we know is that Delcy Rodriguez. So it's important to understand that this is not arbitrary. I mean, she became acting president because that's what the Constitution determines. And one thing she did was replace the head of the Presidential Guard of Honor. And you kind of understand it. I mean, the Presidential Guard of Honor did not do its job in terms of protecting the former president, so she replaced the person with someone of her trust. I think that's perfectly normal. And maybe something that surprised the U.S. leaders was, that after Maduro was kidnapped, that the other high-ranking officials actually stuck together and they've put out a very strong united front. And maybe they weren't expecting it, and so now they are using the corporate media to, spread this gossip. Oh, this person was talking to the U.S., that person was talking to the U.S., to try and spread gossip and see if they can sow distrust among them. But right now, I mean, they're all on the same boat, for better or worse. If they survive, they have to stick together because the Venezuelan revolution has taken a blow, and they have to, stick together, regroup, and see how they can move forward.
Very well said. Rome, any final thoughts? I think we can wrap it there. We're near 90 minutes. It's always great to have you on, Ricardo. Any final thoughts you have, Rome, before we send Ricardo out of here? All right, Ricardo, what can they find you?
Yeah, just follow Venezuela Analysis. We're at Ven Analysis on most social media. Again, we are doing our best to try and keep up with all the developments. Appreciate all the comrades that actually spread the word around and keep an eye on Venezuela because, I mean, it's not the only front, but it's an important anti-imperialist front right now.
Yeah, I think this is the account here. Make sure you guys follow Venezuela Analysis. Once again, they're a fantastic source on X to follow to debunk Western bullshit on South America. We know everything they tell you about South America is bullshit. So at least come from Western media. I think I saw one more super chat. Let me pull this super chat real quick before I wrap this up. Why is Trump stopping at Greenland? He's going to take Denmark itself for national security. Let's hope for a regime change in Denmark. Might as well take Denmark. I said before, like, bro, we need to have a one-state solution. There just need to be a Palestine, and everyone who's too afraid to live in the Palestine, they move to Germany. Like, the crazy Zionists, they can have fucking Germany. We can take Denmark. Everyone who's like, we got so many U.S. bases over there. It might as well be our country. Like, Denmark is essentially America, but they got healthcare. That's why they don't want to be part of America. They're like, why would we be part of your America? We already got your protection. Your taxpayer money is already protecting us, and we got healthcare. Get the fuck. We're not joining your goddamn country.
You got anyway, because of all them soldiers over
there. Feel bad for the 1/3 of the global population that are under United States sanctions. You understand? That Denmark supports. They support the rules-based order that legitimized the piracy of oil from Iran, from Venezuela. All these social democratic countries, you got to decolonize your mind. They've been there every step of the way to help create the genocidal rules-based order that we live in right now. That's why we should feel bad for them. Save your tears for the global South. Save your tears for the people who are victims of genocide. Free Greenland. Free Greenland. That's my position. I fuck with the Inuit. Free Greenland.
And the indigenous inherit their land again. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the indigenous to win, and they just all kill each other.
I want to see if I can find a poll of how many Greenlanders support independence. I think most of them do, right?
I think it's a majority. I mean, they don't want to change one colonizer for another.
Oh, look at this. I'm sorry, I'm just using AI search here. So it said around 56 to 80%. I guess depending on how they ask the question. So around 50 to 80% of people in Greenland support independence, based on how they ask the question. So yeah, I'm for independence for Greenland. Fuck Denmark. My point is, I want Denmark to take the L. I don't like any of these fucking imperialist neighboring states. Anyway, make sure you guys follow Venezuela Analysis. Thank you for your time, Ricardo. Thank you guys for watching.
My pleasure.
Rome, don't you have a fundraiser? I want to make sure I shout that out too. Do you have anything?
Oh, yep. I'm doing a giveaway in a couple of days. I'm gonna talk more about it on my show tomorrow. So I had to push it back up here in Detroit. The weather is horrible. Yeah. So the shelter told me to just push it back until we get a break in the weather. So I really haven't been fundraising on it because I ain't know what I'm doing. I got to cook the chicken tomorrow or the day after. So hopefully I'll be out there in a couple of days. The weather looks like we might get like 1 or 2 days in a break, so I'm gonna try to get out there. We're gonna have a whole bunch of chicken, a whole bunch of sides, coats, clothes, hats, gloves, socks, all that good stuff, sanitation stuff. So if you can, just donate the Sword for the Poor. I'm pretty sure you can go on Revolutionary Blackout and see everything. So And thank you to everybody who had donated so far.
Yeah, you're doing great work as always, Rome. Thank you guys for watching. Here's the Venezuela Analysis website. Make sure you guys support them and their work. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your night. Take care, y'all.